Welcome back to my Edit With Me series. Today we are going to be editing this beautiful golden hour maternity session. So let's go ahead and get started. So I like to start with applying my base preset. And one thing I do want to mention is when it comes to editing, obviously the most important thing that's going to help your editing is getting it right in camera as much as possible. So if that's something that you struggle with, if you feel like you're just struggling with editing because you're really struggling with getting it right in camera and so it's really hard to fix in post, I actually have a free camera settings guide for you down below that I think is really going to help you. And that goes over like in-home newborn sessions as well as outdoor sessions, and just it's a general cheat sheet for what my camera settings are in every situation. And I have a super simple routine for how I set my camera settings that is really easy to follow and replicate. So I think that's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, but once you get it right in camera and you're editing the photos afterwards, let's go ahead and get into picking our base preset. So my presets are just what I've come up with over the course of a really long period of time, just, tweaking to perfection what I like over, years and hundreds of thousands of images. And I've had lots of other photographers test out these presets for me as well. So if you are interested in using these presets for yourself, I'll have those linked in the description below. Now, don't judge these too harshly because this is just the base preset and we are going to fix kind of this brightness that we're seeing here. So here's going to be my base preset. And of course, like we've talked about in my other Edit With Me videos in this series, we're going to go ahead and fix what is bothering us the most first. So what is bothering me the most is the brightness in this photo. So I'm going to come over here to the exposure and turn down the exposure by quite a bit. Okay, and then what's bothering me next is I feel like it's too cool. This was taken at golden hour, and so I think we need to bring up the warmth here by quite a bit. And then I actually might bring up the exposure a little bit more. And then, as you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I love to edit the background separately from the subject. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I do this in almost all, it looks like I already had some masks in here. So hang on, let's take these out. And okay, and then we'll go back in and apply some masks from scratch. Okay, so we are going to first find our background. This is an AI feature of Lightroom where it will find the background for me. And this time it did a pretty good job. It didn't find this little part right here, but that's fine. I'm just going to leave this how it is. And most of the time I find that since I like to backlight, when it comes to these golden hour outdoor sessions, the background is going to be brighter than the subject. Now, if you've watched some of the other videos in my series, like when I was talking about in-home newborn sessions, when it comes to in-home newborn sessions, you're almost always front lighting, or you probably should be front lighting with the window. And so in those situations, your background is going to be darker than your subject. So when you're in home front lighting, you're going to want to bring up the exposure of the background. But in this situation, we're backlighting since this is golden hour. And so the background is going to be brighter than the subject. And so we're going to want to bring down the exposure of the background in post. So I'm going to bring down this exposure. And I'm also going to bring up the temperature of the background a little bit more because I want it to have that golden hour feel without making the subject too warm or too orange. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit return here. Okay, and then now that I've made the background a little darker, I feel a little more comfortable bringing the exposure back up a little bit. Okay, and then sometimes it really depends on the lighting and the specific location, but sometimes I feel like my greens can get a little bit too cool. So I'm going to go down here specifically to the greens. I'm going to bring them a little bit warmer. Okay, and I'm trying to decide if I want my luminance up or down. I think I'm going to bring it down a little. Okay, and then I'm going to bring my saturation down slightly. Again, warmer. And then I actually think I'm going to go back up here to my AI mask and make it slightly warmer. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit return here. And then let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and make another linear gradient mask where I'm going to make the bottom part a little bit brighter, since again that the sun's going to be coming from the top here. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to hit the backspace key to see the before and after, and I am pretty happy with this, so I think that this would be my final edit right here. Now we're moving on to another image. Now this is my final edit right here, so I'm just going to click here to reset all my settings, and we will edit this photo together from scratch. So this was what the photo looked like straight out of camera. Again, if you're struggling with getting your photos good straight out of camera, I think that camera settings guide is going to be so helpful for you, and it's just so easy to replicate what my settings are for almost every session from outdoors to indoors. I've got a pretty good strategy down for how I do minimal tweaks and am able to set my manual settings really quickly and change them as needed. So I think that's going to be helpful for you. So I'm actually pretty happy with this straight out of camera, but we're going to go ahead and apply a base preset. Let's see which one I like the best. I'm going to go with this one. Okay, and then again, we talked about we're going to tweak what is bothering us the most first. So again, the brightness is too much for me, so I'm going to come down here and decrease the exposure. And what's bothering me the most next is the coolness. I think it's too cool. Again, you can see the sun here, like we're getting into golden hour. This was actually a little bit earlier in the session than the first photo. So it's kind of early into golden hour, but we are going to come here and bring up the temperature. Okay, pretty happy with that. And then you guys know I like to do the masking, the AI backgrounds and all that. So let's see. I'm going to create a linear gradient. You guys know I love the linear gradients. And you can see, this is the brightest part of the picture because the sun is right here. So I'm going to bring down the exposure just slightly as well as the highlights. And I also feel like that part of the photo is a little bit too blue. So I'm going to bring up the temperature there. All right. And then I'm going to hit the return key. And again, I'm just hitting the before and after backspace buttons to see how I like the edit compared to the original. And I think that the blues are coming through too strong. So I'm going to go down here to the blues, and I'm going to decrease the saturation and increase the luminance. I'm going to do that to both of these blue colors, the aqua and the blue. Okay. And I'm just going to hit return, and then I'm going to hit the backspace to see how I'm liking this. Okay. I think we're going to come up here, increase the exposure a little bit, and increase the temperature quite a bit. Okay. And again, just hitting the before and after because that just helps me figure out if I like what I'm seeing. Okay, and then I think I am going to create a mask on the subject this time. See if it does a good job finding the subject. And not really. I'm trying to decide if I want this whole thing to be the subject or just the couple. I think that I will subtract the dome. So I'm gonna, let's see, subtract, and I'm gonna do brush, and I'm just gonna kind of brush off where it found this dome to be part of the subject. Okay. So I just want the couple to be the subject here. Just brushing out everything else. Okay. And then I'm going to come down here And I'm going to make them slightly warmer. And I'm also going to scroll down even further, find the texture, increase the texture and the clarity. Okay, and then I'm going to hit return. Okay, I think I'm going to increase the temperature even more, or sorry, the exposure even more. And the temperature. And when you see, you probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just hitting the backspace. When you see kind of this, I'm hitting the backspace button to just see the before and after. That just helps me figure out what it looks like compared to the before and what I want to do to change it. Okay, that's looking a lot better to me now. Okay. I feel like, as photographers, we make all these really minor tweaks that our clients would never notice, but they make such a big difference to us. Okay, scrolling down. I feel like for some reason, this is just bringing out a lot of purple. It's a little bit too much for me, so I'm just going to slightly decrease the saturation and increase the luminance of the purple right here. Maybe even come over here to the magenta and do the same thing, just slightly. Okay. Maybe increase the exposure a tiny, tiny bit. Okay. I think this would be my final edit. Pretty happy with this. Okay. And again, the key to editing is first getting it right in camera and then having the right base preset to start with. So I'm going to link that camera settings guide for you down below. And I'm also going to link these presets for you in case either of those things would be helpful for you. So I hope you enjoyed editing this session with me. And if you're interested in seeing more from me, either when it comes to shooting, editing, business, anything, go ahead and ask me any questions that you have for me down below. I am a family and newborn photographer, and I mainly focus on education for family and newborn photographers, whether it's, like I said, editing, business, shooting, posing, anything you need help with. I would love to know what you're struggling with that I can help you with. So let me know what you want my next video topic to be, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.